Smartwatches have been promising to be useful for a decade. Remember when the Apple Watch came out? Everyone thought it'd replace your phone. Didn't happen. But here's what changed. Google just put Gemini, its most powerful AI, directly on a Pixel watch. And for the first time, an AI on your wrist actually does things you can't do as easily on your phone. It answers complex questions on a tiny screen without you typing. It reads you live sports scores and news the second they update. It understands context so well that when you ask it something weird, it doesn't give a generic response. It gets what you're actually asking. This isn't cosmetic. Wear OS 7, rolling out this week, fundamentally rethinks how smartwatches work. It's built from the ground up for Gemini. The team completely rewrote the software layer so Gemini responds in under a second on a device with a fraction of your phone's battery. That's absurdly hard, and they actually did it. But wait, there's something nobody's talking about yet. It's not just Pixel watches. Any watch running Wear OS gets this same Gemini integration. Samsung, Fossil, everyone. The smartwatch market has been flat for years. This might change that. For decades, smartwatches promised to be the next computing revolution, but they never delivered. Why? Because they were basically tiny phones strapped to your wrist, underpowered, short on battery, and honestly kind of useless. You could check notifications without pulling your phone out, but that was about it. Any real task, looking something up, getting complex answers, anything requiring actual intelligence, meant pulling out your actual phone anyway. So smartwatches got stuck in this terrible middle ground, too limited to be useful on their own, too awkward to beat your phone at anything that mattered. The hardware was always capable, processors fast enough, screens clear enough. The real problem was software. Apps don't work on tiny screens. Traditional menus don't work on tiny screens. Making a watch that's good at anything meaningful requires designing for a completely different interaction model that nobody had figured out yet. That's where AI changes everything. AI is built for natural conversation. You just talk or type plain English and it understands what you want. That's perfect for a tiny screen where traditional interfaces fail. Google realized if you put a genuinely smart AI on a watch, you don't need the watch to do much else. Just let it talk to Gemini, ask it anything, get an instant answer, no menu tapping, no waiting. And this is where the real story starts. Someone finally built the software to make that work at scale. Building AI on a smartwatch is technically insane. A typical AI model is huge, too big to fit on a watch, too power-hungry to run on a battery. Gemini on your phone works because it can tap into servers at Google. But a smartwatch, servers are too far away. Connection is too slow. Battery can't handle constant cloud calls. The latency alone would make the thing useless. So Google did something clever. They built a version of Gemini specifically for watches, smaller, more efficient, still genuinely intelligent. The watch handles basic requests locally, instantly. When it needs server help, it sends a tiny request and gets back a tiny response. Fast, power-efficient, works even with spotty connection. The watch learned what kinds of questions it can answer by itself and what needs the cloud. That's actual optimization, not just shrinking the model down and hoping. They also rewrote Wear OS itself from the ground up to assume you'll be talking to Gemini, not tapping through apps. Voice is now the primary interface. Text input still works, but the OS assumes you want audio first. That means less screen time, which means less battery drain, which means the watch actually lasts a full day doing useful stuff. The response time is what's genuinely impressive. From the second you ask a question to hearing the answer, under a second. On a device the size of your wrist. Let's get specific about what this actually does. You're at lunch, someone's talking about an election happening in Germany. You don't know anything about it. Old smartwatch. You'd have to pull out your phone, open a browser search. New watch with Gemini, you just raise your wrist and say, tell me about the German election. Your wrist gives you a full explanation in 15 seconds. No phone, no typing, just intelligence right there, or sports. Live game happening right now. You ask Gemini for the score, the top plays, what just happened, it tells you all of it in real time. Updates happening every minute. The watch knows about them instantly. You're never out of the loop without looking like you're staring at your phone or work stuff. You're in a meeting, someone mentions a company you've never heard of. Gemini pulls up the basics. Market cap, what they do, recent news, all on your wrist. All without you visibly checking your phone and looking rude. Or creative stuff. You're thinking about dinner and you're not sure what to cook. You tell Gemini what ingredients you have. It suggests recipes, gives you steps. You literally cook with your AI assistant standing on your wrist. Here's what the headlines aren't telling you. The watch remembers context. It knows you've asked about something before. It knows what you care about. So how does this actually compare to what Apple and Samsung are doing? Apple Watch has Siri, which is functional but not great. Siri can do basic tasks, set a timer, send a text, start a workout. But complex questions, Siri struggles. It's not trained for conversation the way Gemini is. You ask Siri something nuanced, and it usually just opens a search. You ask Gemini something nuanced, and it actually answers you in full sentences. There's a real, measurable difference. Samsung Galaxy Watch has something similar to Siri, functional for basics, not so great for complex stuff. And Samsung also has Google Assistant available, but Assistant is weaker than Gemini, less integrated into the watch experience. It feels bolted on rather than built in. The gap is real, and it's significant. Wear OS 7 with Gemini is just categorically better at understanding what you actually want. It's the difference between a voice command system and an actual AI assistant. One is a shortcut to doing things the old way. The other is a fundamentally different way of interacting with technology. One is, hey, do this task, and the other is, hey, answer my question and anticipate what I need next. Apple and Samsung will probably respond with their own AI upgrades soon. Apple's got something in the works. Samsung's working on it too. What does this mean for the industry? First, the smartwatch market gets interesting again. For years, smartwatches were a niche of a niche. Runners and fitness enthusiasts mostly. But AI that actually understands you, that changes who wants one. Busy professionals, students, parents, anyone who just wants quick answers without the phone. Second, this is going to reshape how we think about wearables entirely. Right now, we assume wearables are supplements to phones, nice to have, not essential. Your watch is secondary to your phone. But if your watch can genuinely answer questions and give you information without your phone, then the relationship inverts. Your watch becomes the primary device for information and communication. Your phone becomes the backup for complex tasks that need a bigger screen. That's a massive change. Third, this accelerates the timeline for non-phone wearables. Glasses with AI, earbuds with AI, rings with AI. Once you realize AI is the interface that makes tiny screens useful, you start putting AI into everything wearable. Suddenly, 2026 becomes the year computing actually moved off your phone into your actual body. And suddenly, all those sci-fi ideas about wearable computing don't sound crazy anymore. Fourth, this is terrible news for notification-based business models. Apps that relied on you pulling out your phone to see notifications, that's dying. If you've got a Pixel Watch or another Wear OS device, here's how to actually use this stuff. First, the watch needs to be updated to Wear OS 7. Check your watch settings, go to System, check for updates. It should be rolling out this week, so you might not have it yet, but it's coming very soon. If you don't see it yet, check back daily. Once you've got Wear OS 7, Gemini is basically always available. There are a few ways to access it. You can press and hold the side button, that's the physical button on your watch. That wakes up Gemini. You can also just raise your wrist and say, "Hey Google," followed by your question. Or you can swipe up from the bottom of the watch face to get to the Gemini card, which shows you recent conversation history and suggestions. The conversation interface is designed for voice. Talk naturally. Don't worry about perfect phrasing. Gemini understands context really well. If you ask it about something and then ask a follow-up question, it remembers what you were talking about. That's the whole point. It's conversational, not command-based. Live updates are automatic if you want them. In Gemini settings, you can turn on notifications for things you care about: sports teams, news topics, weather, stock prices. Your watch will surface updates throughout the day without you having to ask. It's proactive. Here's what this moment actually represents. For years, people said AI was about replacing humans, about robots, about existential doom. But the real story of AI in 2026 is way simpler and way more immediate. It's about making devices useful. It's about putting intelligence where you already need it. The smartwatch has been a failed product category for a decade because nobody could figure out what to do with a tiny screen. Turns out the answer is simple: put AI on it. Suddenly it's useful. Suddenly people want one. That's a template Google's going to use on everything. Glasses, earbuds, rings, basically anything smaller than a phone is about to get stuffed with AI because that's what makes them worth wearing. Here's the bigger picture. This represents the change from your phone is your computer to your phone is one of many computers you carry. Your watch is a computer. Your glasses are a computer. Your ear is a computer. They're all connected, they're all AI-powered, and together they're way more useful than a single big screen ever was. That doesn't mean your phone disappears. You'll still pull it out for complex tasks, for creation, for everything that needs a bigger screen. But the default interaction mode moves from phone first to wearables first, and you only grab the phone when you actually need it. That's the change happening right now.